Welcome to the Purpose for Life podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts, and I am excited to interview people who are living with a deeper connection to themselves and living on purpose. And today I'm so excited to have with us, and I know you'll be excited too, to have Tania Nemer here with us, and we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's great to be here.
I'd like to talk about when we were centering, but I like to center before we start. When we were centering, you talked about you wouldn't be here without the people that have been here before you. So will you tell me a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in a great big Lebanese family. So all my family immigrated here from Lebanon. I am a first generation immigrant and a dual citizen of Lebanon myself. And I grew up with two other siblings and my parents, but then also my aunts and my uncles and my cousins, and we were always together. We lived next to each other. We'd ride our bikes to each other's houses, and big part of our church, like the Nemers were always, taking up a whole side of the church, right? Like not just a pew. And so it was really great growing up because there was a lot of love, a lot of chaos, which really taught me how to problem solve. And I was the middle child, so I was kind of in the middle of a lot of things. And that support and that community that grew, not just from the people who immigrated here, like my mom, dad, and aunts and uncles, but cousins and then cousins' friends and siblings' friends, and all of us is what raised me. And I was so blessed in that. And now I have two kids, and my husband and I are really grateful for the community that we have now added to what I grew up with and he grew up with. Now we're creating one with our children too. And so there's so many people, and that's why I said I'm just very lucky and blessed because when things are hard and when things are good, these people are there for me. And so I'm really lucky to be a part of this community.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think it creates a collective field to be together in community to raise one another. Really, we raise right. one another. So I think
it takes a village, and it's so true.
It's so true. And I know that you're a lawyer. So how did you get from growing up in this robust, vibrant community to law school?
So I'm the only lawyer in my family. I think part of the way that started was problem solving, right? And oftentimes the lawyers solve the problems in, because all my family started their own businesses.
Okay.
I always appreciated that, that lawyers had that ability to do that. And I never felt that lawyers were causing problem, right? Like being too zealous or forcing hands on things. I always saw lawyers as the problem solvers. And that goes back to like watching Matlock as a kid all the time. And I don't know if anyone would remember that show, but it was one of my favorites. And then, my family using our good family friend now as a lawyer. And they taught me that lawyers are here to solve the problem and to help you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. Reviewing contracts, because that means a new business could be formed, right? Things like that. And so I was always attracted to that. And it could be just because I am the middle child, and I am also maybe a little superstitious when I say this, but like a Gemini. So I was born in June. And so I have two sides to me, like the introvert and the extrovert. And, bringing that together, I think people would always come to me with their problems and, we'd work through it. And so that's kind of, the law always attracted me. In the 5th grade, I wrote a report and I was very specific. I said, I want to be a criminal defense attorney. I was very specific about it. And it was always there in my head. And I tried other careers. Like education was intriguing to me. I loved, no one would be who they are without a teacher, right? And I loved education in a way. And so I tried all these fields, but I always came back to being a lawyer. And And I felt that was my way of helping people the best way that I can. And so that's kind of what brought me there.
Great. And did you become a criminal defense attorney?
So yeah, I did. I was very lucky. I keep saying that, but I am. I have to count my blessings. We've had some loss in our family, and especially this year, a lot of great loss. And you're going to hear me keep saying how grateful and lucky I am, because I realize every day that we're here and every day that we're together is a blessing and a gift. So excuse me for keep saying that. I just know how lucky I am. And so I became a criminal defense attorney. I worked for a firm, McGinty, Hilo, and Spellacy. I also started dabbling in immigration. It was not something I was interested in at all. I think I was trying to branch out of my family dynamics maybe when I became a lawyer. But immigrants always came to me because I have a family of immigrants. So, when I started out in private practice, I was doing not just criminal defense, but I was doing civil work. I was doing divorce work, doing immigration work. And as the years continued in private practice, I was doing it for 7 years. By the third or fourth, my practice narrowed to a niche, and it was called crimigration. It was, immigrants who might have criminal issues. And it could be, driving under suspension or a DUI or a felony or what have you. If they have that error on their record, how does that affect their immigration status? So I became more niche in that and presented to other lawyers about it because it gets really complicated in the law. And so I found, that part of my desire to be a criminal defense attorney and then my love for immigration together. And I got to do that.
What made you want to be a criminal defense attorney? And then I want to talk about immigration.
I think especially in my younger years, I was keenly in tuned with things not being fair or right. And I don't know. I felt really connected to people who experienced injustice. And that really started in criminal law for me. It was later I realized, I worked down at the border and immigration detention, right, in Mexico, U.S. border, and people think they're criminals. They're not, right? They are, they are trying to file the correct paperwork to stay in America. It's a civil infraction. But there's that feeling of criminal, right, that people presume or think, and I have a huge soft spot for that injustice, and at a younger age, my brain was full with so many things that were not fair, and I wanted to fight. And I knew I was lucky because my family, my parents didn't have, they just needed to survive, right? They came to this country. My dad didn't know the language. My dad did not graduate high school. He needed to find work. He needed to figure out how to make a life for himself. And so he was fighting to just survive. But he put me in a position and always told me this, I want you have more tools than I do now. I want to give you the best education. I want to make sure that you can do the things in life that you want to do and be a success, whatever that success means. I think in the Lebanese culture, it means doctor, lawyer, or engineer, right? But he put me in that position to be able to really connect to people in that way, and then know that I can help them because I have a safe space in him and my mom to always come home. Do you know what I mean? I always have a place to come home to. And so I'm able to take more risks to help others and be out there and fight the good fight. And so I think, I had the desire to do it, and then I had the ability to do it. So, what's to stop me?
I love that. I think you're fierce, and I love that about you.
Thank you.
So how did you end up at the border? And then will you talk about how you ended up in the justice system around immigration and your journey there, where you are now?
Yeah. All right. So when I went down to the border, I went twice. it was a time when women and children are being detained. And, they use the word detained lightly, right? But it's really jailed. And so it was at the Obama time, right? It was Obama was president. They were trying to find a space to put people when they want to come into the United States, but still need to do their credible fear interview. And so what happens is, if somebody wants to come to the United States, they can knock on the door and say, hey, I have a fear of returning to my home country. And I say knock on the door, not literally, but they come to the border and say, hey, I have a fear of returning to my home country. I'd like to claim asylum. Well, in order to proceed with that claim, the government needs to determine if you have a reasonable fear of harm, of persecution. So they conduct these interviews to determine if your fear is legitimate. And then when they do that, if they determine you have that fear, enough of that fear of persecution, then they'll let you come into the United States and litigate your case in the immigration courts. And you could be sent to any court, depending on, if you have a family member in Ohio, you could say, well, I'm going to go live in Ohio. And they'll say, okay, I'm going to send you to the court in Ohio. You're going to have a hearing in 2 weeks. And so when we found out, and I was working at Catholic Charities as a nonprofit immigration attorney, and I found out that these women and children were being detained, it was an injustice. I saw that. I felt for long periods of time too that I needed to help. And a lot of other immigration lawyers, and there's not many of us, felt that too. And so the American Immigration Lawyers Association started putting together groups of lawyers in the nation who would go down to the border and represent the women and children who are detained. And I volunteered to do that twice. It's something that I think is important to make sure, that our justice system and that our laws are enforced and appropriately administered. Because when you don't have a lawyer, things slip through the cracks, right? And representation, especially in immigration court, means a lot, right, to the success of a case and to justice, right? So that is how I got down there, and I was able to do that work. And eventually, I became an immigration judge. It was such an honor. I had applied for the position, and then 3 years later, I got a call. They had done numerous background checks, interviews, and I got this call. It was on a Thursday, and they said, congratulations. We'd like to offer you a position as an immigration judge in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're going to ask that you report to duty on Monday. It was whirlwind because there wasn't a lot of time. I was, at the time, a magistrate for the probate court in our county, in Summit County, and I had a docket. I was able to get a week, and then I had to report to D.C. for training for 3 weeks. And it was it was an honor to serve with the people that I served with. My class, we had I think about 30 or 40 judges from all over the nation who were being trained to become judges at that time. And they were an amazing class of people from all walks of life. You had, lawyers who worked for the Department of Homeland Security who were in my class of immigration judges. You had magistrates from other counties and states. You had private practitioners. You had we had a nonprofit attorney. It was a very mix of experience and expertise in who was there, and we all learned from each other. And I told you my intention is every day I try to wake up to see what am I going to be able to learn. So I was able to learn a lot, even though I had practiced for such a long time in immigration. So it was a wonderful experience, and I was able to be an immigration judge for a year and a half, almost 2 years. It was actually a year and I believe 7 months, and that was such a gift. I'm going to go into this.
Go into it. Go right into it.
So on a Wednesday, February 5th, as I was on the bench in my robe on the record, we were recording like we're doing now. I had a courtroom full of people. It was about 30 immigrants. I had my attorney from the Department of Homeland Security and my staff. And I was on the record and my door opened. And usually when you're on the record, you can't, there's no disruptions. Nobody ever disrupts. It was in the afternoon. My door opened and it was my administrative judge, motioning for me to come out. And it was not normal, right? And so I got up right away because he didn't look well either. I got up right away because I was concerned that something had happened. And he said, grab your ID. And as soon as he said, grab your ID, something in me is like, this is not right. Why would he say that? And so I don't even know if I turned the record off. It was just so quick. It happened really fast. I got up. I go into the hallway and I said, is everything okay? And he said, no, Tania, I just have received an email saying I have to terminate you effective immediately and escort you out of the building. And I was in shock. I mean, I don't know if you could imagine, like,
I can't.
Your normal day, you're working, you're loving your job. And it's an important job, much like having a lawyer in the room. Obviously, it's important to have a fair decision maker in the room who's going to listen to both sides. And I took that very seriously. And so I was in shock. I just turned to him and I said, but why? And he said, you're one of my best judges, and I don't know why. I was not given a reason. I was just given an email, and he had printed out the email and handed it to me. It was 2 small paragraphs that just said, thank you for your service. You are hereby removed effective immediately. And if you'd like to appeal this is how, and that was it. It was very shocking to me. The chief judge of the entire United States was located in Ohio at that time, and in the office next door to me. As I was getting escorted out of the building, I stopped and knocked on his door, asked him, why am I being terminated? And he shook his head. He's like, I don't know, Tania. So, I mean, when you work for the federal government, you go through 3 years of background checks. You're going through all this process. And then it's shocking when you're on the bench and just removed and nobody knows why. And nothing is done without reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything is purposeful. You understand there's a lot of systems. There's a hierarchy of power, right? There's all these things that are in place. So it was just very shocking to me. And I didn't really know what else to say or do. I didn't really have a choice. I had to leave the building. So I was escorted out of the building and then out of the parking garage too. And I drove for a little bit and then I pulled over and cried.
I'm sure.
I mean, it was hard. It was hard. It's weird because it's been, so it was 2025, right? So it's been over a year, and usually I'm pretty good with it, but sometimes, it's, it's shocking. It's just
For sure.
shocking. So,
And it's not because you weren't doing a good job. So that can't be the reason.
no, I had excellent performance reviews.
Yes.
We get reviewed regularly, and I had the highest marks. So this goes to the shock of it all, right?
What do you think is the cause? Do you have a guess?
Yeah, I later found out they had only been terminating women. There were 2 other men who were not dual citizens like myself, who were getting paid more than I was. I was the lowest paid judge in the courthouse, and in that space. And I know that the reason that they terminated me was because of my gender. It was because of my my nationality as a dual citizen. It was because I know my political affiliation. If you Google my name, I had previously run for office. And so I know, unfortunately, with judges, when you run for office locally here in Ohio, they attach during the primary, not during the general, but during the primary, a political affiliation. And so it was pretty easy to determine what mine was. And I know that these are the reasons why I was terminated. And I found that out later. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry because from listening to you, this is my second time listening to you. I hear your dedication for justice and fairness, and also your willingness to look at both sides, to work to be fair. I think fairness drives you, and to have somebody of that caliber in that position is what we want. And so I'm so sorry you were excused out of there.
Thank you.
And what have you done since then?
So you're going to hear me say it, very lucky. It was a very hard time for me right after for a little while. Obviously it still kind of is, but I was very lucky because all my former employers, Catholic Charities, prosecutor's office, private practice, everyone reached out to me. And they were like, I heard what happened, because it made, I later found out I was the first and only judge fired that day in the entire nation. And news spread that night. I got calls from administrative judges and judges on the West Coast. And, people found out very quickly and called me to see, number one, are you okay? What happened? What is going on here? And I was lucky that my former employers and people I've worked with in the past all reached out to me and said, you need a job. I'm here for you. And so I went back to the Summit County Prosecutor's Office. I am currently the Deputy Chief of Civil Division and Child Support and Tax. And I am currently running for judge for the Summit County Common Pleas Court General Division.
I'm so excited. I want you to be our judge.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I think I got to hear you on a panel, and we don't have time today to go into all the ways that you know information about both the protocol for immigration, the injustices, the lack of fairness, and where you have to fight, and a wealth of knowledge. And I don't get to hear that many people in the political world that have such a moral and ethical stand and are so fair and bright at the same time. I was so moved listening to you, which is why I wanted you on the podcast. And I think that, what I also really appreciate about you, you've always been driven by justice, whether it was thinking about criminal defense or going into crimmigration, or then, going down to the border, or then being a judge on the immigration court. That's a huge ask of anyone, and a dedication of service to take that path. And here you are keeping going. And I'm hoping, I know people listen all over the world, but for those of you that are in Summit County, please, take the time to learn about Tania. Listen to her ethics and her stand, and let's help her be a judge in our community and help serve our community.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
That means a lot to me. And, voting is so important, right?
So important.
And like you said, take the time to learn.
Yeah.
And then tell your friends, right?
And you may not be for everyone.
No.
But for those of you that want someone like you, if they don't know you or know about you, they don't know what to do.
That's right.
So, I listen to you, and I'm listening to you again today, and you have I would call it a moral and ethical backbone and a fortitude that we want in the service of justice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I don't take that lightly. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to me.
I think part of it is growing up the way you grew up with, it seems like you care for the whole and the whole cared for you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that's correct.
Right? And so that is what you are still doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Fighting for us to care for the whole, and then the whole can care for us. And you're still doing it in your own way, but I feel like you've been set up for this from the very beginning.
I think that you might be right. And I think you see it in everybody. Everybody has the ability to draw from their strength, to give back in a way, right? And it might be a different way, but we all have that strength inside of us. And I think I was just lucky that my family and friends always encourage that strength to come out. And they brought it out of me. They continue to bring me out of it. Like I had a friend who called me just a couple days after I was terminated, and I was in bed and I couldn't get up, and my poor kids, my husband, and they were all very kind to me, giving me time. But I had a friend who called me and she's like, Tania, get out of bed right now. You have work to do. And it
Great.
I didn't get out right away, but like it is still something I think about now. Like, you can't stop, right? Like you have to keep on going. Might be a little harder, might not be what you planned, but we all have that in us, that drive in us. We just, it goes back to what you said in our intentions. It's like our collective, our all of us, and there's many differences in all of us, right? But like together we are a force and a strength, and together we can do great things.
I totally agree. We're going to have to wind down for now. I always like to ask my guests this question. What do you think the purpose for life is?
Oh, that's a big question.
It is.
I think the purpose for life, and this is something that's in my wedding ring that my husband and I have, and it was my high school quote, and my senior year quote, to live, love, and laugh. Oh. And it's so simple. I think that if we're living our life to the fullest every day, we can do something great, but it doesn't have to be grand, right? Like it could be having dinner with our kids, and maybe doing a little something special that day and making it together, or it doesn't have to be complicated. It just live life to the fullest. Love with all your heart, and make sure that laughter is so good for the soul that you do that. So I think that purpose of life is just to do that.
I love that. Thank you so much. And how can people get a hold of you, and how can people support you in your judgeship running?
Oh, thanks. That's a great question. So my website has it all. So if you go to www.nemerforjudge.com, and it's spelled Nemer, rhymes with femur, Nemer. So www.nemerforjudge.com, and you can learn all the information on how to volunteer, contribute, to do all the things for our campaign, and see what we're up to. And I have my resume up there to learn more about me too. So I would love for you to come visit nemerforjudge.com.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us here today on another great episode with Purpose for Life. I'm your host, Suzanne Roberts. I'm the author of It's Deeper Than That and the founder of The Great Reconnection. Subscribe, and you will get information about all the upcoming guests we have. We have great ones coming, and thank you for listening.